February 1959, deep in the unforgiving Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. 9 experienced hikers, led by Igor Dayatlov, embark on an ambitious expedition aiming to conquer the peak of Otorten Mountain. In the end, a mountain pass would be named for Igor, but not because him and his group of seasoned hikers, well acquainted with the challenges of the wilderness, triumphed, but because it would be where they met their fate. They set off, undeterred by the warnings of the Mansi, the indigenous people of the region who revered the mountain but also feared it, calling it Kolatsiakl, the Dead Mountain. The journey was not for the faint-hearted. The weather was brutal, the snow-covered slopes treacherous. The cold bit through their clothing, the wind howled around them, and the barren landscape stretched out as far as the eye could see. They were truly in the heart of the wilderness, far from the safety and warmth of civilization. Despite the harsh conditions, they pressed on, establishing a camp on the slopes of Kolatsiakl. Night fell, the temperature dropped, and they retreated to the sanctuary of their tent, their last sanctuary, a place of rest and warmth that would soon become a chilling scene of confusion and terror. In the middle of the night, something compelled them to cut their way out of their tent, to abandon the relative safety it provided. They fled the campsite, ill-prepared for the biting cold and the unforgiving landscape. But what could have driven them to such a desperate act? What could have instilled such fear in these experienced hikers that they would rather face the deadly cold than stay in their tent? The Dayatlov Pass incident has perplexed investigators for over 6 decades. What happened that fateful night? Weeks after they were due to return, the hikers were found, but not as one would expect. Their bodies lay scattered, their tent slashed open from the inside, and their belongings left untouched. Imagine the scene, the chilling cold of the Ural Mountains, footprints leading away from the tent, and the eerie stillness of the snow-covered landscape. Search parties discovered the first 2 bodies near the edge of a nearby woods. They were underdressed for the harsh weather, suggesting a hasty and panicked departure from their campsite. As the search continued, the remaining bodies were found buried under snow in a ravine deeper into the woods. The cause of death, hypothermia. But the injuries sustained were far from ordinary. Some bodies showed signs of severe physical trauma, burns, and even signs of using each other's clothes, indicating they may have died at different times. The Soviet government's investigation concluded with an unsettling verdict. They attributed the deaths to a compelling natural force. But what could this force be that drove 9 experienced hikers to such a horrific end? This question sparked a wave of theories, each wilder than the last. Some proposed a Soviet military test gone awry. Could the hikers have unwittingly strayed into a secret testing site, becoming collateral damage in a game of Cold War espionage? And then there were the more fantastical theories. The legend of the Yeti, the abominable snowman, is well known in the region. Could a creature of folklore be responsible for the gruesome fate of the hikers? Or perhaps it was something even more otherworldly. UFO sightings were reported in the region around the same time. Could the hikers have encountered extraterrestrial beings, becoming victims of a close encounter of the fatal kind? Each theory seemed to add a new layer of intrigue and mystery to the Dayatlov Pass incident. But with the case closed by the Soviet government, many questions remained. Could a compelling natural force have led to such a tragedy? Or was there something more sinister at play? In 2019, 2 Swiss scientists proposed a theory that may finally bring some closure to this haunting mystery. Our focus now shifts to an avalanche theory, a hypothesis that has gained significant credibility over the years. According to this theory, the experienced hikers dug into the slope to set up their camp. This action, seemingly harmless and practical at the time, may have unknowingly set the stage for their demise. When we think of avalanches, we often picture a roaring mass of snow cascading down a mountainside with unstoppable force. However, not all avalanches fit this dramatic mold. Some are smaller, quieter, but no less deadly. This is the type of avalanche the Swiss scientists believe could have occurred that fateful night on the slopes of Kolatsiakl. The theory suggests that the hikers' decision to dig into the snow destabilized the layers beneath, creating a precarious balance. As they slept, a slab of snow could have broken loose and swept over their tent with crushing force. The injuries found on some of the hikers, including severe chest trauma, would be consistent with the pressure exerted by a dense mass of snow. This avalanche theory also provides a plausible explanation for why the hikers cut their way out of their tent and fled into the night inadequately dressed. The sudden and terrifying onslaught of snow would have left them with little time to gather their belongings or put on warm clothing. But like all theories, the avalanche hypothesis is not without its flaws. Critics argue that the slope where the hikers camped wasn't steep enough for an avalanche to occur. They also question why no signs of a recent avalanche were found when the rescue teams arrived. However, the Swiss scientists counter these objections with a theory of a special kind of small avalanche, a delay-triggered slab avalanche. The snow could have fallen hours or even days after the hikers made their camp, and the signs could have been covered up by subsequent snowfall and wind. Could an avalanche have been the compelling natural force that ended the lives of the 9 hikers, or does the Dayatlov Pass continue to hold a darker secret? The mountains remain silent, leaving us to wonder and speculate.